Living on purpose. So I suppose the first question is, what's your purpose? And I'm not going to answer all these questions this morning, by the way, so this is homework for you. yeah. And by the way, I'm glad when you find yours that it's yours and not mine. Because I can't do it all, okay? But a good thing to ask yourself is, how do you know when you're on purpose? And I think you'll find there are some clear signs. Actually, what's clearer for me is, how do I know when I'm off purpose? But it's good to know that. Another good question is, what guides you or leads you in being on purpose? And what distracts you, or delays you, or leads you off purpose? See, we know more about our purpose than we let ourselves be aware of. And I think that in answering some of these questions for yourself, you're going to learn more about what you already know about who you are here to be. And I'll encourage you to do it, because it's fun. So, I pull things from A Course in Miracles. I told you that before, because it's really bottom line. A Course in Miracles says a lot about purpose. So, in the workbook, one place it says, the peace of God is everything I want. The peace of God is my one goal, the aim of all my living here, the end I seek, my purpose and my function and my life. And thank you, Betty Lou, because she reminds me often that while it's written, the peace of God, P-E-A-C-E, it also means a lot and sometimes more when we remember that my only purpose, function in my life is to be the peace, P-I-E-C, of God that I'm here to be. So our purpose is to be the peace of God. To be it and to see it everywhere, in everything. So then I go to lesson 64. See, in the Course in Miracles, there are daily lessons. There's 365 of these, and so you do a lesson, you read this, and then you make these statements afterwards that kind of change your mind. Lesson 64, let me not forget my function. By the way, this is not just for me. This is for all of us. Today's idea is merely another way of saying, let me not wander into temptation. The purpose of the world you see is to obscure your function of forgiveness and provide you with a justification for forgetting it. Whoa. The purpose of the world you see is to obscure your function of forgiveness and provide you with a justification for forgetting it. So a little sidelight from that, I mean, what if there are no accidents? You know, what if this world isn't just kind of a figment made up somewhere? What if it's all on purpose? How many of you ever, at any time in your life, engaged in athletic endeavors? A few people can relate to this. See, I used to be a runner, and actually a pretty good one, as it turns out. But I always remember this one time in college. I ran distances, and so cross country is one of my favorite. You know, you go out for 6 or 8 or 10 miles across the hills and dales and all around everywhere. And so this one time, my girlfriend in college, her mother came to watch one of my races. And I was all proud because I went to run this whole course up and down the hills in Berkeley, you know, and I came across the line first, okay? And I was proud of myself, and I actually thought, wow, you know, she ought to be proud of me. And she came up to me and she says, "You mean they don't make you do that? They don't pay you to do that? I mean, is nobody forcing you to do that?" No. Maybe that's what this world is. Maybe this world is providing us with an opportunity to see how good we really are, to see how strong we can really be, to see how clearly we can hold on to what's true about us in spite of all of the obstacles. So maybe on purpose, the purpose of the world we see is to obscure your function of forgiveness and provide you with a justification for forgetting it, and we remember anyway. The lesson goes on to say your function here, this must be your second function, because they just told me my function is forgiveness. Your function here is to be the light of the world. So maybe I need to forgive before I can be the light of the world. That makes sense? Okay. Only by fulfilling the function given you by God will you be happy. Therefore, every time you choose whether or not to fulfill your function, you're really choosing whether or not to be happy. And every lesson, by the way, ends with some affirmations to work with. The 3 affirmations. The first, let me not forget my function. That's a prayer. Thank you. The second, let me not try to substitute mine's for God's. My function or God's function. And the third, let me forgive and be happy. So according to the Course in Miracles, one of the ways you know you're on purpose is when you're happy. Now, this is not the egoic personality, ha-ha, happy. You know, that kind of happy is really kind of comes and goes. You know that, right? Or it's dependent upon other people or other circumstances or things in order to have you be happy. This is talking about spiritual happiness, which is an expression of peace, and it's enduring, and it's unshakable. Because I'm there, I looked at lesson number 37. My holiness blesses the world. By the way, this doesn't say, get holy first, then bless the world. My holiness, my inherent, God-given holiness blesses the world. It says, this idea contains the first glimmerings of your true function in the world, or why you are here. Your purpose is to see the world through your own holiness. See the world through your own holiness. Thus you and the world are blessed together. So what if it's as simple as that? What if our purpose is to see and know only God, first in ourselves, and then in everyone around us, in everything in the world? So we run up against an interesting thought, because sometimes I and a lot of other folks in this world have said this world is an illusion. So what's the good of blessing an illusion with my holiness? So I went to Ramakrishna back in the 1800s. And he says, discrimination is the reasoning by which one knows that God alone is real and all else is unreal. And then he goes on to define the real as that which is eternal, and the unreal is that which is impermanent. Then he says, while striving for the realization of God, and I want to tell you right now that this comment automatically excludes 90-some-odd% of the human population on this planet. Okay? He's only talking now for people who are striving for the realization of God. The aspirant has to practice renunciation applying the logic of neti, which means not this, not this. What happens is, he's saying we need to discriminate. That's not God, that's not God, that's not real, that's not eternal, that's not love. He's not talking about renunciation in the sense of giving up something, sacrificing, oh, okay, I won't have hot chocolate today. He's actually talking about recognizing that what we thought was valuable really isn't what it is we want. He's talking about wanting something else more than we want all of the things that we've already gotten used to. So it's a very common and honored Indian practice. Neti. Not this, not that, not even that. So you can say at that point all of this is illusion. But he goes on to say, but after attaining the vision of God, he realizes that God alone has become all things. Then one sees that God, Maya, that's the earthly play here, living beings and the universe form one whole. God includes the universe and all its living beings. So, I wrestled with this for a while. By the way, a practice I highly recommend is read the autobiographies or biographies of various saints and holy people and important people, or people who do what you value, okay? You'll learn a lot. But I had to digest this. Okay, that's a lot of words to say that. So, in a nutshell, for me, what that means that this world is an illusion as long as you think that it's real. It's real when you see only God. This world is an illusion as long as you think that it's real. And it's real when you see only God. See, this is unity. Every Sunday morning we start out with the first unity principle. There's only one presence and one power as the universe and as my life. God, the good, omnipresent. Omnipotence, too. Secondly, we have the second unity principle, which is basically our essence is God. And by the way, that's not just us unitics. The essence of everyone, everywhere on this planet is God. No matter how they are currently showing up, good, bad, or ugly. So I want to, I would say dispel a myth, but maybe it's dispel a misinterpretation or a convenient misunderstanding. I want to say to you that it is not all perfect. It's not all right. It's not all good. It's not all godly. Of Course in Miracles says you're the light of the world. Well, we're all the light of the world. But you want to know something? Some of us have dirty windshields. Some of us have a foggy mirror. Some of us have these really creepy shadow puppets in front of our light. We're still the light of the world. This is the world, and stuff happens in the world. So rather than saying, hey, it's all good, everything's perfect just the way it is, try this. It's all feedback. 100% reliable feedback. Now, for those of us who are on a spiritual path or on any kind of a path, wanting to get anywhere and having our hearts set on that, feedback is extremely valuable. I want to know when I'm not going the direction that I've chosen. But understand that feedback is not always welcomed by those people who want to have things be their way. or want to be right, or want to maintain the status quo. So back to A Course in Miracles, our purpose is the peace of God. Our function is forgiveness so that we can be the light of the world. Now, I have to say a word about forgiveness. We've said this before. That's why I have to say it again. Because it came up for me. That means I need to remember. This is not traditional church forgiveness. This is not me and my high and mightiness forgive you and your lowliness for all the stuff you really did. See, you don't make it real and then attempt to forgive it. You understand? The forgiveness is saying it's not real. So don't make it real and then try to pretend like it's not real. It's either real to you, in which case you don't forgive, and that's fine, live with that. Or it's not real to you. And so you can forgive, erase, and move on. See, we forget sometimes and think that we're our physical bodies. Oh, it's real, you hurt me. I have a bruise to prove it. You, as a spiritual being, can only choose to be hurt. No one can hurt you. When you forgive, you're saying, I choose to be who I really am. We do a lot of that in this world, by the way. You know, we create a problem so that we can overcome it. I mean, so I'm going to tell you, stop complaining. See, complaining is just that. Complaining is creating the problem, making it real, letting everybody know, but I'll find a way through it. You're just going to get stuck. You know, it's said in a lot of places, in a lot of ways, that God manifests in different ways to different people. To each according to his ability, to his background, to his conditions, to his willingness. God shows up in lots of different ways, so everyone has an opportunity. So remember that one of the ways that God manifests is through you and through me. See, I think we make a mistake when we're focused on what am I supposed to do, rather than focusing on how am I supposed to do whatever it is that I'm called to do. See, our purpose is not a doingness. Our purpose is about being. And everything we do should be an accurate reflection of our being. But the being comes first. So, fun exercise, you go through your life. Does this action, does this activity, does this speech, does this thought pattern represent the truth of who I am? And if it doesn't, by the way, my favorite question is, or my favorite statement is, how unlike me? Screwed up. How unlike me? So, you know, there are people in this world who are called troubleshooters. You know what I'm talking about? The job of a troubleshooter needs to, number one, go where he's called. Number two, listen, look, assess. So number three, he can respond in a way that's effective. So it looks like a different thing on every assignment, but it's still the same job. So maybe our job is to be a spiritual troubleshooter. And maybe our purpose is really as simple as be loving the world. Yeah.